Like most players that play Dungeons and Dragons that also have a computer or a console at this point, I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. This isn't going to be a video about use these rules from Baldur's Gate to make your Dungeons and Dragons game super awesome. And it's not going to be about why Baldur's Gate is such a great game. It is, and especially if you're a forever Dungeon Master, you should go play it. It might be the closest thing you ever get to playing again. When I was watching a lot of these YouTube reviews and watching, people come out with the meta builds for different characters, it made me think about some things about how I play Dungeons and Dragons with different groups and how I customize it. We're going to use some game design terms here, so let's just skip to the end and then we'll cover that. There is no meta for tabletop RPGs. You can make Dungeons and Dragons really fit whatever kind of game you want to play, whether that's super social or combat or dungeon exploration or wilderness survival. You can make it fit that, and it is okay if you don't want to play certain styles of game. If you want to go around murdering everybody in town, then go find another Dungeon Master. I don't want to do that. I want to do something where we're playing heroes, or I want to play one where we're playing villains, but we're kind of clever villains that are working within the system, or maybe we kill some people with town, but we've got to have a very specific reason. We're not just going to play chaotic, evil, Joker type psychopaths that run around killing anyone that crosses our paths. I had a friend that wanted to play a very specific style of game. They wanted to play a game where they gathered up things and they made magic items, and he basically wanted to become the Amazon, the company of magic items, where I sell magic items cheaper than everybody else and I run them out of business. Okay, I didn't really want to have magic item shops in my game in the first place, and I definitely want to do that. But that's not wrong. I could do that. And that's what's kind of cool about these kind of systems. I could have said, let's have you as a single player, we'll play solo, and then we'll link that up with the multiplayer game where we have a bunch of people that are getting their quests from you. These other players, they're not really interested in the story. They just want to go through dungeons and kill monsters. So maybe you make a character to play with them as well, and you're going to arrange things on a kind of weird spreadsheet, because it's kind of what you want to do, of magic items that you're going to sell to different adventuring groups, and I'll make up the adventuring groups as they come in, what they want, and what they're going to do, and you can give quests to these other adventurers to go get monster parts, kind of like Monster Hunter, bring them back, make magic items, sell them to other adventuring groups, and go do all that kind of stuff. I could have done that. It is okay that I didn't want to. It is okay that you want to run a game where it is high adventure, and we are going to question whether we should kill these orcs or not. It is okay if you want to run a game that is pulp adventure. You go, we're not really going to question whether we kill orcs. It's more like Indiana Jones or Star Wars, where we're killing stormtroopers or Nazis, whatever it is. We're not really going to question where these people go when they go home, what their family likes. It's like, we're just going to say it's fine. We're not going to worry about the grander questions of morals and ethics. Okay, cool. You could say you're going to run a Game of Thrones kind of game where everybody is a different shade of gray, largely towards the darker shades, and nobody's a nice person, including the players. And if you want the crown on your head, you're going to have to make bad deals with bad people. That's totally cool. You could do that. You could do a dungeon crawl. You could do something where it is like Baldur's Gate and you stop at the Druid Grove. And that's it. You're now going to hang out in the Druid Grove the entire time. You're going to go find herbs in the forest, bring them back, and help creatures. You're going to go talk to the owlbear and say, what is it that you need? How can I help you so that you don't eat the druids in the grove, but I can get you to defend me against these goblins that are leading incursions into our forests? You could do that and totally change your game, because there is no difference in a Dungeons and Dragons game between free play and instrumental play. If you've never heard those terms before, free play is a game where kids are just kicking around a ball out in the backyard. No rules. They're just having fun kicking the ball. Just, you kick it, you do whatever. And then all of a sudden, one kid comes up with the idea, you got to kick it between those two trees to score a point. They say, I win. I got a point. They have introduced a goal. That is instrumental play. It is now not enough to just kick the ball. You have to kick the ball through those trees. And that means that there are optimal angles at which to kick the ball. It's not, if you have to kick it from over here and kick it sideways, that's not as good as an angle. You're not as likely to get it. And RPGs are just really a way to systematize kids playing cops and robbers and say, Well, I have a sword, and that's going to attack you, and it'll hit you and kill you. Well, I have chainmail, and chainmail beats your sword. Well, my sword is a magic flaming sword, so it cuts through your chainmail. Well, my armor is magic, and we can say, no, you didn't, because the rules say you don't have that. And because they say don't have it, that didn't work. So we have a way to make these rules, which means we have instrumental play, which is where all those builds come from for Dungeons and Dragons. This is the optimal build. And you could go to RPG Bot or something and figure out what the optimal build is for your Warlock. And there are lots of videos about that for Baldur's Gate. But what if you're not running that game? What if you're running a game that is all about the conversation that's happening and largely you don't want to have combat? If combat happens, something has gone horribly wrong in this game and the player's life expectancy is pretty low. You could do that. And all of a sudden, all the talents, all the skills, all the stats shift from being combat heavy stats to things like charisma and wisdom and intelligence, even among your more martial characters. In older editions, there were a bunch of talents that you took. For my friend who wanted to run a magic shop, largely people didn't take the magic item creation feats because, well, you're just going to find loot. Don't bother wasting a feat on that. You should take spell penetration or maximize spell or all these feats or things so that you're more effective in combat. Leave those other things for the dungeon master. But that would have been the right call for the type of game that he wanted to play in. For my players that want a more conversational style game where they largely just talk to the different leaders and they try to negotiate different alliances, all those feats that say like actor that improve your persuasion skills or your diplomacy or whatever the skill is called in your particular edition, those are more appealing than the combat feats because that's what they want to play. Because there's a dungeon master, all those builds might not be worth anything. They're going, I'm going to kick the ball between those two trees, and the dungeon master goes, cool, then I will make the game about kicking the ball between those two trees. Well, what if we had made the game about picking up the ball and hitting another person with it, like dodgeball?
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What?
Then I would have made the game about dodgeball, and all of a sudden all those feats that you took that were for dodgeball would have been useful, whereas all the feats that you took for soccer would not have been useful. But then there is the instrumental play, the goal-oriented play, is defined by what I want as a player to get out of the game. Yeah, it is. I can do that. But it's okay if I don't want to. As a dungeon master, we're putting in lots of effort. We're writing these campaigns. We're making new NPCs. Even if you're one of the ones that improvises, you got to come up with these people and hold them in your head or your notes or whatever, that this is what they want, this is who they are, this is how they behave, this is what kind of activities they're going to approve of or disapprove of, this is what their alliances are with the players and other NPCs, this is how my gods behave, this is how my nations are aligned. All that kind of stuff is floating in your head or your notes, and you're having to keep that somewhere and put effort into it beyond just showing up, eating some chips and pizza, and maybe making a lot of characters and making a lot of choices and making it interesting. But you get to do that in a moment as a player. As a dungeon master, I've got to prep to some degree or another. And it's okay because I have to put in more effort to say, I don't want to play that game about being an herbalist in the Druid Grove. It is okay to say that is the kind of game that I want to play. And I am going to reward that. It is okay to say, I want to play a dungeon crawl where we're just going to kill a bunch of monsters. I want to play Game of Thrones. We're going to do that. If you're going to say, I don't want to do it, then I would encourage you to come up with the things that you do want to do and say, these are the kind of games that I am interested in running. Players choose among them. Make characters for those. Tell me what it is. And these might be a selection where you don't want A, B, or C, but you do want X, Y, and Z plus P, Q, and R. And I will try to put them all in. You may not get all of them all the time, but you will get some of them some of the time. I would also encourage you to come up with reasons why you don't want to play that. No, I don't want to play, let's play Amazon in a fantasy world. I don't think all the other players are going to be into it. I think it could be interesting. And if you want to come up with like a mini game that we do on the side, cool. But I don't want to do it at the table when everyone else is around and spend a lot of time dealing with this one specific thing for you, when we could be having fun with all of our friends and doing dungeon crawls, killing monsters, getting loot, and then we can deal with what you disenchant things and sell them and make new magic items later. I don't really like the fantasy, personally, of being a druid that's just sitting in a grove talking to a bunch of animals. I'm not saying that that's not an interesting fantasy for you. It is okay that you like something and I do not. I, as a person, do not like Endgame Diablo, the franchise from Blizzard Entertainment. I don't like it. I played Diablo. I killed Diablo. Diablo is dead. Good, done. I have friends that love Diablo. They will play all the seasons. They will play all the characters. They will try to maximize all their builds to the umpteenth degree. They like that kind of thing. That's cool. That's their game. It's okay that they like that game and I do not. It is okay that I can go, yeah, it was great. Thank you very much for that campaign, Blizzard. I am done. I put this on my shelf. You got your money out of me and it's okay that I don't continue to play. I'm not sure Blizzard sees it that way, but that's not the point. It is okay that we like different things and we can all be friends. It is also okay if that reaches an impasse and says, well, but I really do want to run a campaign where we are playing a druid that just gathers a bunch of herbs. There are board games and there are other games that can support that and go, well, then we go play one of those. And I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons with some other people and we'll play this. Maybe a board game is your thing. Maybe they are the dungeon master and they come up with a way to make that interesting for you. And that could inspire you to do something different in your Dungeons and Dragons game that isn't exactly that, but is kind of like that. It is okay for them to take over. Let's bring all this back into Baldur's Gate 3 and kind of my point. I love Baldur's Gate 3. In the same way that my friends love Diablo franchises, I love this game and I will probably play it 3 or 4 more times all the way through, trying different builds, trying different meta things and all that kind of stuff. But it will always be Baldur's Gate 3 until they develop full AI dungeon masters that can make the story whatever they want. The only way I can get a completely customized experience that is exactly what I want at the table, I've got to be a dungeon master with a bunch of players. And yeah, that means that they get to muddle with my game and stick things in there and do their things. But that's the fun for me, is going, oh, this is not what I expected we were going to do. Turns out they want to join the Githyanki and they're going to go pirate and sail the Astral Sea looking for mind flayers and stuff and kill those things. Didn't expect that to come along, but let's go for it. As long as you're the dungeon master and you enjoy playing what the players want to play, remember, you're a player too. Try to have some fun.